There's a range of polarization that is essentially good game. If you're below this, it's bad game. If you're above this, it's bad game. And then there's a range in here. And if you want the hottest girls specifically, you just don't want girls in general or cute girls, but you want specifically the hottest girls, you should play towards this end of the range, toward the more polarizing end of the range. Okay, so today's first question, this comes from someone whose initials are RD, so thank you, RD, wherever you are. And he says, how do I game high-value online women like influencers, top picks on Tinder, etc.? And this is an interesting question because it's one of those questions where my initial response is, that's a dumb question. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, actually, it's not quite as dumb a question as it first seems. And the reason why at first I was like, that's a dumb question, is that the answer is, you have good game, right? How do you pick up hot girls? Have good game. All right. End of answer, right? Refer to all previous advice given, refer to all following advice given. There's no special thing to do. And that is very, very true. If you have photos that make you look attractive, make you look attractive to women across the board. They make you look kind of attractive to all women. If you have a bio that is intriguing and gets attention, it's going to be intriguing and get attention kind of across the board, right? So a good bio versus a bad bio is going to get you more hot girls. It's also going to get you more just sort of cute girls. It's also going to get you more, so-so girls, etc. It's pretty much just going to get you more girls, period. And of that more girls you're getting, some of them will be hot, and that's how you get your hot girls. And that pretty much is the most common way and overall the way that most guys do succeed with online dating is they just have a pretty good bio, have pretty good photos, and they get what they get, and they get matched with girls that are, some of them kind of average, some of them attractive, and some of them really hot. And on sites where, you're swiping on who you're swiping on, if you swipe on hot girls, you're going to get a bunch of hot matches. If you swipe on hot girls and cute girls, you're going to get hot and cute matches in kind of a mix. And that's just kind of how it works, okay? Here's where it's not a dumb question, because there are things you can do in your profile to tailor it to certain types of girls. So there are things you can do in your profile to tailor it towards more conservative girls or more kinky girls. There are things you can do in your profile to tailor it towards girls who are more educated or girls who are less educated, girls who party more or girls who are more serious about their jobs, right? There's different things like that. Even your site selection to an extent can fit into that one, but definitely you can write your profile, you can choose your photos in such a way, because each time you put something in your profile, each time you choose a particular photo, or you add a photo to your profile, or you just choose to have a particular photo taken in the first place, you are deciding a message. You're deciding an idea of you that you're putting out into the world for girls to grasp onto, and for that to be the reason why they might say yes to you, right? So if you choose to play the persona of badass, tattooed, like jacked guy on a motorcycle, that's going to get a different type of girl than if you play the persona of successful, elite businessman who's kind of aloof and has high standards in the world. Both are attractive. Both are definitely attractive personas, but they are different attractive personas, and so you're going to get different girls with them. And so in trying to get the hottest girls, the next thing that you can do is, if you want a particular type of hot girl, you can cater to that persona. So if you want hot girls that go to the bars a lot and party a lot, which there are a lot of hot girls that are in that category, well, you can design your profile to be more about partying and going out, and you can have pictures of you partying and those kind of things. And you shouldn't look very straight-laced and straight-edged and by the book, because that would be a turn-off to those types of girls. On the other hand, if your version of what a high-caliber girl is involves her working hard and having a good job, you might want to do the opposite. You might want to convey being a little more responsible. You don't want to convey being boring. You don't want to be so responsible you're boring, but you might want to convey that at least, you have some form of means of income in your life, or that you are, somewhat successful, even if you don't get into like the how the soup is made, so to speak. So that's another part of it, is you can cater to a particular type of girl, and certain types of girls are hotter than others. So if you were to cater to extremely nerdy girls who are into like Dungeons and Dragons, there are girls like that out there, and they might really like that profile, but on average they're going to be less hot than if you catered to the girls that are bottle service girls or professional models or something like that, in terms of how you're conveying yourself in your profile. So that's a part of it as well. Then there is the final piece, which is, I would call it the sort of leveling, polarizing piece. And this has to do with catering to specific girls at first, and then it has to do with overall attractiveness second. So in terms of leveling yourself, what will attract a 7 versus a 10? And again, you can define that any way you want. You can do that just purely based on physical attractiveness, and this will correlate, or you can do it based on physical attractiveness and other desirable qualities, and this will still correlate. In any case, as long as you're making a measurement on whatever metric that one girl is more desirable than another, and as long as you're consistent and correct in that distinction, this rating of higher caliber and lower caliber will hold. And in that case, the higher caliber girl will have more options, more choices, and will respond to different things. And that's the whole concept of leveling. So the girl who's a 7, in quotes, will typically go for a guy who's around a 7.5, 8, 8.5. The girl who's a 10, again, in quotes, because your 10 is different than everybody else's 10 and who knows what, right? The girls who have fewer options and are going for a guy that's, a point or two above them, the 7 that's going for the 8.5, is going to respond to different things than the 10 who's looking for also a 10. And you can change things in your profile to do this. And here I'm going to give you real evidence. Well, sort of real evidence. I'm going to give you real anecdotal evidence. And this comes from my own experience in doing online dating. When I first started out, I was not very polarizing at all. And I got very few matches because I just didn't get attention. I didn't get noticed. I wasn't particularly funny. I wasn't particularly interesting. I was just that guy that blended in. It was like every other guy trying to impress through the things that are resume and boring and supposed to be impressive. So I got a few matches, but not very many. And then I decided to try something based on advice that I was getting the pickup community early on and different people who were advising on online dating. And I got a little more polarizing. And then suddenly I got more matches. And not just a few more matches, I got a lot more matches. Probably like 4 times to 10 times as many matches as I was before. And I started to get some matches that were actually kind of cute. And, this was big progress. So given that that worked, so I wasn't polarizing, I got polarizing, I got more matches and hotter matches. What would you do in this case? Well, you would probably get more polarizing, which is exactly what I did. I ratcheted it up, got a little bit more polarizing. So then I did it again. I ratcheted it up, got super polarizing, and I got fewer matches. But I got more hot matches, which is very interesting. Which is really, really interesting. What happened there? What happened once I went from like polarizing to super polarizing to really super polarizing? Well, what happened was the girls who were in that category of like, the sweet, 7s and 8s who, they're getting some attention from guys, but not from maybe the hottest guys. And they kind of know where they're at. They know that they're cute. They know that they have options, but they also are a little intimidated by a guy who is like just conveying himself very playerish. They're a little intimidated by a guy who they don't think they could keep. They're a little intimidated by a guy who comes across like he's getting a ton of attention from a ton of other girls and might not stick around. And so they dropped out of the mix. And so maybe, for example, my previous profile that was less polarizing, I was getting maybe like for X amount of work, I was getting 10 matches. And then of those 10 matches, maybe 1.5 to 2 of them would be super hot. Right? And now all of a sudden, when I got more polarizing, now I was getting 5 matches, but of those 5 matches, 3 of them were hot, right? Something like that. And that's probably not exactly the right ratio, but it's the right direction. So you get the idea, which is I got actually fewer matches, but I still got more hot matches. So then I ratcheted it up one more time, and then I basically just got no matches of any kind, including the hot ones. All right. So the point is there is a certain sweet spot. There's a certain sweet spot for getting girls at all, right? If you're too unpolarizing and boring, you will basically get nothing. If you're kind of cool and funny and witty and a little bit polarizing, you'll start to get decent girls and decently cute girls and the occasional hot girl who happens to just resonate with your personality, with what you're putting out there. If you go a little bit more polarizing, you will get fewer girls, but you may get more hotter girls, or you may just get the same number of hotter girls and the ratio of what you're getting is hot or whatever. But in theory, there is a spot where you actually are getting fewer girls, but you're actually getting more of the hot ones, right? And that's kind of where I like to play with my profile, because I'm a lot more into quality than I am into quantity. There are other guys that are different. There are plenty of guys, even guys that have been in the game for a long time, and they're really, really into quantity, and they would actually prefer to just have the 10 matches of whom 1.5 or 2 of them are hot, as opposed to I'll take the 5 matches of whom 3 of them are hot, right? If that were my 2 choices. But that's a personal choice. And then if you go too far, now you've just gone so polarizing that it's uncalibrated. There's a range of polarization that is essentially good game. If you're below this, it's bad game. If you're above this, it's bad game. And then there's a range in here. And if you want the hottest girls specifically, you just don't want girls in general or cute girls, but you want specifically the hottest girls, you should play towards this end of the range, toward the more polarizing end of the range. It's probably the opposite for you as you're watching this, but regardless, towards the polarizing end of the range, where you're going to get more hot girls. Okay? So that's what you want to do ideally to get hot girls. You want to play it a little more polarizing. One takeaway from this, so obviously that's how you get hot girls. Be a little more polarizing, take more risks, stand out a little bit more. I will give you 2 caveats. The first caveat's already baked in, which is if you go too polarizing, it doesn't work at all, right? That is number 1. Number 2 is if you go too polarizing, it may not work for a different reason other than turning girls off. It may not work because you're going to hurt yourself with the algorithm of whatever site you're on. So if you are on a particular site and you are offending girls to the point that they complain about you and unmatch you, the algorithm doesn't like that. The algorithm wants as many users to be happy and wants as many cute or hot girls to be happy as possible. So if you're offending girls and getting complained about, that's going to hurt you. You're going to get leveled down by the algorithm. So you don't want to go so polarizing that you are flat out bad game. You also don't want to go so polarizing that you are flat out offensive and getting negative feedback. So you want to go pretty much polarizing just short of that. And if in doubt, the difference between a really good, somewhat polarizing profile and an extremely polarizing profile is not that huge. Maybe you get time and a half as many hot matches or something like that, which is totally doable. Either way, you're going to be filling your calendar. You're going to have more hot dates than you can handle. You don't really need to push it to the absolute extreme. So I wouldn't recommend pushing it to the absolute extreme, but I would recommend trying to ratchet it up a little bit and seeing what your results are, right? So if you ratchet up the polarization and get massively better results, ratchet some more, ratchet some more, ratchet some more. When you start to get diminishing returns, where you ratchet up the polarization and don't see an increase in your results, that's probably hitting the sweet spot. That's probably about where you want to stay in terms of meeting and getting the hottest girls.